Hello, and welcome to our lesson on legal and contractual management. This segment will cover types of contracts. Purchasing contracts come in various types based on their characteristics and purpose, primarily falling into fixed price and cost-based categories. The pricing mechanism, outlined in the payment clause, details whether it's fixed or cost-based. Specifics like pricing formulas, cost elements, or indices are typically found in the schedule appendices. Including an example in the schedule can help all parties understand how prices or costs are calculated. The simplest pricing mechanism in contracts is the firm fixed price. Here, the agreed-upon price remains unchanged despite economic shifts, industry dynamics, or market fluctuations. This price can be established through various means like quotations, supplier responses, or negotiations. Fixed-price contracts are easy to manage, requiring minimal oversight. When market prices for a purchased good or service exceed the contract price, the seller absorbs any financial losses. Conversely, if market prices fall below the contract price due to external factors like competition, technological advancements, or changes in raw material costs, the purchaser bears the risk and potential financial loss. When the supplying organization is uncertain about its ability to attain reasonable profit under competitive fixed-price conditions, it may adjust its price to accommodate potential increases in component, raw material, or labor costs. However, if the supplier raises the contract price in anticipation of rising costs that do not materialize, the purchaser ends up overpaying for the goods or services. Therefore, it's crucial for the purchasing organization to thoroughly assess market conditions before entering into a fixed-price contract to mitigate the impact of contingency pricing on the overall cost throughout the contract's duration. For longer-term purchases prone to cost fluctuations, a fixed-price contract with an escalation clause is employed. This clause adjusts the base price based on predetermined circumstances, offering suppliers protection against rising costs and purchasers the potential for price reductions. Changes in price are tied to a reputable third-party index, typically a widely recognized one like the Producer Price Index for a specific material. In cases of uncertain labor or material costs, such as with unproven technologies, a fixed-price contract with redetermination may be suitable. Initially, parties negotiate a target price based on estimated costs. After a set production volume is reached, both parties reassess and agree upon a revised firm price. Depending on the circumstances surrounding the contract, the redetermined price may be applied only to production following the redetermination, or it may be applied to all or part of the units previously produced. However, caution is advised as contracts reliant on future agreements may not be enforceable. A final type of fixed-price contract is the fixed-price contract with incentives. Similar to a fixed-price contract with redetermination, this type allows for cost-saving sharing with the supplier. If the supplier achieves savings through production efficiencies or material substitutions, these savings are split between the supplier and purchaser at a predetermined rate. Typically used for high unit cost and long lead time conditions, the sharing ratio, often 50-50, is negotiable. Cost-based contracts shift financial risk from seller to buyer and are suitable for complex or costly purchases where fixed-price contracts might include excessive contingency fees. While they offer lower supplier risk, careful management can yield reduced overall costs for the purchaser. Clear terms should mandate cost control by the supplier, with both parties agreeing on cost calculation. However, they can be less favorable to buyers, lacking supplier incentive for cost efficiency and potentially leading to inflated prices due to supplier inefficiency. Cost plus incentive fee contracts are akin to fixed price plus incentive fee contracts, except that the base price depends on allowable supplier costs rather than on a fixed price basis. If the supplier enhances efficiency or material usage compared to the initial target cost, both parties share cost savings at a predetermined rate. This contract suits situations where both parties have confidence in the accuracy of initial cost estimates. In cost-sharing contracts, parties split allowable costs based on a set percentage. Clear operating guidelines and objectives are crucial for successful negotiation. detailed expectations are essential to avoid confusion. These contracts are vital during periods of rising raw material prices, as they outline how parties share increased costs and prevent supplier bankruptcy. The sourcing snapshot for Delphi illustrates the importance of ongoing communication and continuous improvement as an important component of contracts, especially in times of financial difficulty. The snapshot of Honda shows the challenges in maintaining a fixed price contract when operating in China. A time and materials contract is commonly employed in plant and equipment maintenance agreements. It specifies a labor rate, typically per hour, alongside overhead and profit percentages, culminating in a not-to-exceed total price. This setup allows for flexibility in uncertain repair costs. However, since the purchaser has limited control over the estimated maximum price, diligent auditing of labor hours throughout the contract's duration is essential. In a cost-plus fixed-fee contract, the supplier receives reimbursement for all of its allowable costs up to a predetermined amount, plus a fixed fee, usually a percentage of the targeted cost. While ensuring a minimal profit margin for the supplier, this approach often lacks incentives for cost optimization. The routine use of such contracts, particularly by the U.S. military, has drawn criticism for allowing suppliers to profit excessively from commonly procured goods and services, burdening taxpayers. For optimal effectiveness, cost-based contracts should incorporate mechanisms for driving continuous cost reduction through productivity improvements throughout the contract duration. Among the more important factors to consider when negotiating with a supplier over contract type are the following: component market uncertainty, long-term agreements, degree of trust between buyer and seller, process or technology uncertainty, supplier's ability to impact costs, the total dollar value of the purchase. Component market uncertainty relates to the fluctuation in prices of essential elements like raw materials, purchased components, and labor. When these prices are highly volatile, fixed-price contracts become less suitable. Rising market prices increase risk for suppliers, while falling prices shift economic risk to purchasers. This dynamic also applies to contracts with international suppliers affected by unstable currency exchange rates. Long-term agreements often dictate the suitability of contract types. Suppliers favor fixed price with escalation or cost-based contracts for ongoing arrangements due to reduced economic risk. Purchasing managers must assess contract types' economic risks and their suitability for the agreement's duration. Short-term contracts in stable market conditions typically accommodate firms' fixed or fixed prices with redetermination contracts. Contract type selection also hinges on the buyer-seller relationship. Long-standing, mutually beneficial relationships foster trust between buyers and sellers. This trust encourages cooperation in determining allowable costs, favoring cost-based purchase agreements. For items with uncertain processes or technologies, and where suppliers can influence costs, fixed-price contracts aren't ideal. Instead, if the buyer has a good grasp of the supplier's cost structure, cost-based contracts are better as they allow price adjustments based on supplier efforts. In cases where suppliers can lower costs through improvement, incentive contracts benefit both parties. As the contract's total dollar value unit cost increases, purchasers must spend more effort creating effective pricing mechanisms. The contracting parties must consider each of the factors in Exhibit 14.2 in detail and the contract's total impact over the agreement's lifetime. It is important to remember that both parties in a contract must benefit, although not necessarily in the same proportion. This is the end of this segment of our lesson. In the next segment, we shall discuss long-term contracts in alliances and partnerships. This course is presented to you by South Europe College. Thank you for listening, and see you on our next segment.